Chapter 2 is about communicating verbally. The functions of verbal communication, how words communicate, the rules of verbal communication, there are words to avoid, there are words to use carefully, and there are strategies for improving your verbal communication, how we speak to each other. The functions of verbal communication, there's 4 areas that we're going to look at. The first one is the instrumental function. This is when we use words in our language to direct people into doing something, i.e., instructions, giving details of how to do something. We can go on the internet and watch a YouTube channel, but when you hear what's happening as well as see it, it really adds an extra layer of understanding. The creative function of words are really good when we're using our imagination. There's metaphors, similes, hyperbole, and alliterations. Metaphors are a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. In other words, imagine this. Imagine a tree as strong as a mountain. Imagine that pond is as deep as the deepest gorge in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. So it's a metaphor for something that is made up. Similes are figures of speeches involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind, and it's used to make a description more emphatic or vivid. She was as brave as a lion. He was crazy like a fox. Similes are really good. Don't overuse them, though, unless you're into an English class. Then you're supposed to use them. But for communication class, for public speaking, definitely try to use some. They just naturally happen. It's things you say without even thinking about it. Hyperboles are exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally. So think of these as a magnified overstatement. It's an embellishment, if you will, not a lie. It's just adding a lot more than is actually there. And alliterations are the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected with words, such as the sweet bird's song or the sour taste of lemonade. So alliterations are there. If you ever have an English class that asks for definitions, learn these. These are really good things. And try to use some of these when you can in your speech. The analytical function of language involves use of our critical thinking abilities and skills to evaluate and critique ideas, issues, situations, things like that with other people. Now, if you want to talk out loud, you can do that. Sometimes you have to talk through a situation to make sure you're hearing yourself. But generally, when we're analyzing, we talk to other people, so it's not just in our head. The analytical function of verbal communication is also useful when trying to figure out really complex issues or problems with people in relationships. Now, remember, a relationship isn't married, hanging out, going steady, family. It's an immediate situation. Let's say something is about to sting a person, a stranger. You see a bee crawling on their shoulder, and you really want to help that person out. So you say, "Excuse me, I don't want to startle you, but," and next thing you know, they're like freaking out and rolling on the ground, okay? Or you could just walk up and smack the bug. That's usually not good because you might get smacked back. So use your words and figure out ways to solve things. The social function of words, obviously, hi. Now, hi is called phatic communication. Hi, hello, hey, what's up? Make noise. Hey, it's not a head motion, it's a sound. So it's small talk. It really is interesting to go up to somebody and say, hey, let's have some phatic communication. They're going to look at you with the strangest face. Again, be careful with that. Don't try that on strangers. Try it on your friends first. Trouble talk, dealing with conflict, is another part of the social function of words. Again, words matter. If you're very stressed out, very maybe angry, aggressive, your words might simplify. You might swear versus pre-think ways to say things. Or maybe you don't swear when you're stressed out because you know you shouldn't and you really think your words out. This is really communicating at a higher level. How words communicate. There's 2 processes for interpreting messages. I'm going to say a word, and I want you to say a word out loud, even though I can't hear you, and remember this word. I'm going to say dog. What are you thinking? Now, you're seeing a little foo-foo dog here, and then the big Great Dane. Now, I encoded the word dog. You decoded the word dog. Now, what are words? Words are symbols that have assigned meaning. So, dog. Okay, let's try another word. Pizza. Okay, what does pizza mean? Pizza is a word, but it is also a symbol that represents an idea, a process, or a physical entity. So if I say pizza, you're saying what kind of pizza? Well, let's go beyond the symbol. Pizza is not about food. It's not about what's on the pizza. It's about friends and getting together and having a good time. Interesting, huh? So symbols matter in words. We use symbols in their intended meanings to communicate with each other in many different ways. Denotative meanings, these are agreed upon meanings for things based on what can be found in the dictionary or online. Connotative meanings are assigned meanings based on personalized or individual experiences that we each have. Let's look at this case of the photographer. The photographer is taking pictures of this girl on a beach. That's what his friends thinks he does. His mom thinks he just is a wedding photographer and takes pictures of people in social events. Society thinks he's a paparazzi moron just trying to get that shot, trying to get the drool coming out of the celebrity's mouth or something stupid. His assistant thinks he's just a monkey because anybody can do it. What he thinks he does, he's an artist and he puts things on display. What he actually does is sit in front of the computer all day long looking at the 5,000 shots that he just did and photoshopping them so he can hopefully make a sale. The rules of verbal communication. Yes, there are rules to how we talk. There's rules regarding places. In different places, we're trained as little children, oh, you shouldn't say that here, or we need to lower our voice here. Or we just know socially, you don't go yelling across at a funeral home, hey, dude, what's up, man? I haven't seen you in a year. Hey, how's it going? Hey, you don't do that at funeral homes, unless it's really a crazy kind of funeral, but I haven't ever been to one of those. Usually they're very quiet and somber. And usually there's barely any speaking. How about the doctor's office? Okay, you walk into the doctor's office. You don't sit down next to the person in the waiting room and go, hey, how you doing? What's broke? Anything bleeding? You got any communicable diseases there? You already know somebody's sick or hurt. They're at the doctor's office. So we're generally used to not saying it. In the grocery store, if you're single, you might say hi to somebody and you're looking for the ring on his or her finger if you're really into that kind of thing. If it's in a hallway, maybe there's symbols that people wear that they're with somebody on a permanent or semi-permanent basis, whatever it is. When we're out at a restaurant with our loved ones, we don't talk really loud, say, hey, I love you, man, let's go. You don't do that. Usually you talk in hush whispered tones because it's private. It's not that you don't want to share. It's more intimate, and that's how we communicate. And then, of course, you're on your piece of electronics. You ignore the world, right? Don't talk to me now. I'm playing my game. Fruit Ninjas or something like that. Whoop, go too far. Verbal communication is also about who we're with at the moment. Now, conversational partners can be many, many different situations. With friends, classmates, the rules regarding conversational partners is a little different. You're cordial until you get to know them, then it changes. A mom with a child or father, or if you're the child with a parent, you're going to talk a little bit differently than you would, say, with a police officer. Usually when a cop stops you, you all of a sudden sit up straight and you're yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You get very official. If you don't, things might not go so good. It's the uniform. We're trained to respect that. Now, there's a lot of people in society that don't. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to throw out my opinion, say, don't do that to them. All right. They're hardworking people. Don't disrespect them for that. If you get pulled over for a ticket, own up to it, be quiet, take your medicine, show up in court if you need to fight it. That's my personal opinion. However, in the real world, it's how you act is how you act. So if you're trained to speak back to a cop, life's going to get real expensive. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. Rules of engagement in public. Rules about initiating, conducting, and ending verbal exchanges also matter on what words we use. So conversations are grounded by turn-taking and reciprocal disclosure between people, between partners, among conversation partners. If you're with, say, a grandparent. When do you end the conversation, or do they, or does it just kind of, so it just kind of ends and you walk away from each other? At a speech, at a gathering. Thank you very much for listening. Everybody have a safe drive home. See you next week. Okay, so there's rules of engagement. I'm telling you, it's over. I don't just pack my stuff up and walk out of the room. I've had professors do that. It's really freaky. Did they forget to say hi, or did somebody die? I mean, what's going on? But some teachers in a really big classroom might just do that. Maybe they got nervous. Maybe it's first timer. We don't know. So again, there are different rules of how we end conversations too. Words to avoid. Can you think of any right now before I click the next page? There's quite a few we should avoid, depending on the situation too. Profanity, swearing, don't do it in public, especially. Definitely blow back on you. Sexist words, that could be he or she, guy or gal, gender, baiting, anything like that is sexist words. Racist words, calling people of color, culture, slang terms, words that aren't even in the dictionary anymore. You say these words out loud, depending who hears it, life can get really difficult really quick. Grammatical errors. Make sure if you are trying to speak correctly, accents are one thing, but grammatical errors for this and for that, to do that, going here, going there. Be careful of those. When we're just talking conversational, grammatical errors happen. Sometimes we get tongue-tied. I make errors in my pronunciation doing these. It happens. Ignore them, move on. If you need to correct the word so people really know what you're doing, i.e. a text, texted my wife this morning and B kept coming up for bext or best, and I was trying to type next. I had to type it 3 times before the end took. It was really weird. Something was up with the phone or my finger. Grammatical errors. So whatever you do with your texting to correct it, think extra that your words need to be corrected too. Ageist words are another thing. You kids, you children, you babies, or you old people, I won't go on with that, but basically stop. Be aware and think before you speak of words that you use that you should be avoiding. Some good examples. He don't care about me anymore. Okay, doesn't sound bad, but we know generally that's not appropriate in maybe a classroom setting. He doesn't care about me anymore. Okay, so check all these fun things. You can read through this. I'm just going to go through the correct versions. The incorrect version, I never would have thought he would act like that. It's hard for me to say it because it's wrong. I never would have thought he would act like that. If it sounds wrong, it probably is. Sometimes we throw extra words in because nobody ever corrects us, whether it's at home or in grade school when we're learning grammar. I'm studying grammar to be certified to teach people who do not speak English as a first language, English. The fun I'm going to have to get rid of all the errors that they learned before that. Well, it'll be a lot of work, but it's going to be fun because I'm going to make fun of it. Not of them, but of the words, and give them correct meaning. I'm not speaking to nobody in this class. We know that's probably not correct. I'm not speaking to anybody in this class. Again, it's how you used and how you learned English as you were growing up, and or as you're still growing up in college, because sometimes your college teachers will correct you more than your high school teachers did. I should have went to school yesterday. Sounds okay, but a more correct is I should have gone to school yesterday. Notice my intonation changed too. So things happen with our words. Try to correct them. If you know you said something wrong, you don't have to correct it right away. Just in basic talk with people, just make a mental note to say it differently next time, and maybe go practice it out loud while you're driving or you're alone. It's not texting and driving, it's speaking and driving, and I think that's okay. Words to use carefully. Slang, jargon, overused expressions, cliches, and words that disguise euphemisms. Be careful with these. So let's take a look at these. Slang, swearing, okay? Slang is not necessarily swearing. It's made up words. If you're a real crispy critter, there's something we made up back in the 70s. I'll let you figure out what that means. But that was something that our little peer group used, and it spread. And now it's all over the world as far as we know, because things spread. And we didn't have the internet. We don't take proof that we did it, but it was just something we created. Okay, so don't get bent about that if, it's slang for, so don't get angry about that, okay? So the word bent, well, what does being bent mean? Is that for yoga class, stretching class, working out? It's weird. Not everybody understands that word, okay? He was decked in a bar fight. Was he a sailor? He was knocked down hard in a bar fight. Again, decked is the word that's slang. Do you know what this means? Don't make waves at the office if you want a promotion. Well, are they soft, subtle waves or huge, crashing, pounding waves? Well, don't cause trouble at the office if you want a promotion. Two big ends showed up from the head of the office is probably something you do not want to say at your workplace because that connotates there might be a live shooter. So we need to be careful about this. One of those weird things that's going on right now. Two important bosses came from the office. Okay. Two big guns. That's about World War II-ish, maybe World War I-ish. So it goes way back, 100 years it's probably been going on. Think of words that you use that you made up with your friends and family. If you give those words to other people and they look at you funny, maybe because that word is not clearly understood. Cliches. I love cliches. Cliches are just a dime a dozen with me. I love them. An expression that has lost originality and forced through overuse is a cliche. Think about this. No pain, no gain. Okay, if you've ever worked out, if you've ever done sports, coach yells, hey, no pain, no gain. Come on, run harder, run faster. True, not true. And there's some physiology behind that. We won't get into that. Beauty is only skin deep. Yeah, we've heard that a billion times, right? How about airing out your dirty laundry? Okay. Well, up in Burton, we get laughter because of the Amish. They hang their clothes out on the lines, but in Twinsburg, I don't think we do that. But you might do it in the backyard, too, for fresh smell, if you like. One for all and all for one. Not in college classes unless you're working in group work, okay? That's Three Musketeers stuff. Be careful of cliches. Don't overuse them. Hey, they're fun. Throw them in there. Don't be afraid to use them, but just be careful to not overdo it. Jargon. This is tech talk, okay? So IT people, you ever get on the phone with them and all of a sudden they're talking bit rate mapping and blah, 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 blah. And it's, whoa, slow down. Can you talk English to me? That's my response. Pretend I'm stupid. Talk dumb to me. Yeah, that's not going to work too. But basically, think about any technical words that you use or that you've heard. Did you feel not right if you were the listener? Or did you feel superior if you used that word? You probably shouldn't talk down to people. Now, big thing about jargon. If you're going to throw a techie word out there because you just have to use it, explain it, define it. It's okay to do that. But make sure you're not talking down to people when you're speaking about that. Quick euphemisms. In the military, they might say friendly fire. This is when the same army soldiers are killed by their own people. Fratricide is another word, but friendly fire is used there. In business, pre-owned. What does pre-owned mean? It was used, okay? Now, certified is still pre-owned, but pre-owned certified when it comes to cars. So don't get caught up with, hey, it was pre-owned and gently used. Wait a minute. See it for what it is. It's used, okay? But how used? In the government, they say undocumented worker. When I was doing my higher education student personnel master's degree, undocumented student was the big thing. And I thought that just meant a student who left their ID at home because nobody explained it. They didn't want you to know the answer. So when we actually found out what it meant citizens, people, but they're not legal citizens. Okay, so they're people, or is now often referred to as illegal aliens. In sports, the football player gained negative yardage. What? How do you gain negative? Well, he went backwards. Okay, so he lost ground on the field. Can you have negative baskets in basketball? I don't think so. So think about this. We've had a lot of head injury issues with sports in my fall and spring classes. I haven't heard anybody talk about this yet, but the CTE issue comes up, and it's a really big problem. CTE and BIG. Figure those ones out. Strategies for improving your verbal communication. There's quite a few. We're going to break these down into groups, though. When interacting with other people, you need to find out if their perceptions and your perceptions are the same. Use your own words and describe how you see things without casting judgment that somebody else knows what you're talking about. If somebody else is talking about something and you have no clue what they're talking about, ask, what do you mean by that? If you're the speaker, say it in your own words and then maybe explain it. But be thinking, they're going to ask, what do you mean by that? And if they give you that look, that look that what? And it's kind of hard to do on the microphone, but think about that. Go look in the mirror and go, what did he just say? That scrunched up face says it needs to be explained. But describe without judgment. So if you're talking about geology and you're taking a geology class and you're talking to other students about amorphic rocks and obsidian thingies and this and that and striata and blah, blah, blah. The person looks at you, I have no clue what you're talking about. Don't go, whoa, geez, who are you? Don't judge them for that. So say, look, these are some rock things I'm going to talk about and I'll explain them as I go, but just be patient with me if you don't know what they are. Help them out. Help your audience out to see things. When preparing your speech, again, define words for your audience. Now, how do you know what they know and don't know? If you know the word plainly and clearly, and you've known it for years and years and years, and you're in the 20-something group and or younger, you probably should assume that everybody else does. If you just learned the word within the last week, assume nobody knows the word. If I say scholarship, okay, we should all know what that means. But if I say collegiality, what does that mean? Well, you kind of have an idea based on the root words, but I would have to explain that to you. So we want to act in a very collegial sense or in a very college-level manner in how we approach our academics. Build your vocabulary. This is a big thing. You can get apps that shoot a message to your phone every single day with a new word. When I was a kid, I tried to read the dictionary because it was just another book on the shelf, and I like to read books a lot, so I read the dictionary. Little did I know it would come in handy someday. When I took the GRE, or the Graduate Ready exam, see how I just explained that acronym? When I took that Graduate Ready exam a couple years ago, I was exposed to words I've never, ever, ever seen in my life, nor have I ever seen after that exam. But it helped build my vocabulary. It helped me with a couple teachers who actually threw a few words out that I remembered, but I couldn't remember the definition because there's some pretty crazy words out there that you only hear in academia, and we're talking PhD level. So work on building your vocabulary, not huge, big, giant, long words, but words that can help condense meanings, especially in college. Paint pictures with your words. I've been saying this for a while. Use your words to paint an image. If I'm talking about the wind outside, I want to say the wind was pushing on the trees so I could see the undersiding of the trees, which means it's probably blowing at 5 to 7 miles an hour. It's a gentle breeze that the birds are enjoying because I'm looking out my window, actually describing what's going on out my windows past my monitor. And I just saw a male and female cardinal sitting up there. It was kind of cool. Use the language of who you're with. In other words, use the language of the locals. Each class that you take, psychology, chemistry, communication, geology, business, nursing, education classes, each one of those classes is going to have slightly different words. Those words can be looked at as language. I'm not talking about speaking a foreign language, but the local language. Be specific and concrete too. If you're not sure how to explain something, listen to other people or practice what you're going to say before you say it. Make inferences very carefully too. If you're new to a chemistry class and everybody else, let's just say you came in a week late into your chemistry class because of a problem with signing into a class that worked for your schedule. Those people already know more than you do as far as words. So be careful what you say to them because they might look at you and like, wait, who are you? And, oh, we don't want to work with you. You don't know anything. Be careful about that too. Make accurate observations. Say, that's not really safe. We should be careful before you mix those two chemicals together. Okay? Specific and concrete. Work on this stuff.